Alright guys, so my old Saturn 2.2 is starting to have a problem. 239,000 miles. It's been pretty much problem free for the last 200,000 miles. It started with a miss. It was a high speed thing. So I got the old gauge out and read it, and it's a P0301, which is a miss on cylinder number 1. Started looking at it and figured it was the ignition control module. I guess there's two schools of thought: is to replace the easiest part to get to first, or replace the cheapest part first. And cheapest part would be the spark plug, if the spark plug is the culprit. The iridiums are about $7. But again, this thing's got 238,000 miles on it, and everything on it at the top end is all original. So throwing some parts on it isn't gonna kill me. They're not super expensive. So I started out a couple days ago and put a new ignition module in it. It's 3 of these star heads, and you just unplug that, it pulls out. Super easy to do. Drove it a little bit. That didn't fix it. It idles fine, so it only starts to miss after you've been driving it about 10 to 15 minutes. It warms up, and and you're going at highway speed. It doesn't seem to miss, starting out or idling or anything like that. So next I put new coil pack on. So take the ignition module off. We tested the coil pack, and the number 1 coil on the coil pack was in fact shorted. So we put that on, and I thought, okay, that's fine. I did not pull the number 1 plug like an idiot. Don't make that mistake. Put it all back together. She ran great. 10 minutes later, she's missing again. So now I'm going to pull it all back apart and check the number 1 spark plug, and I am hoping that this number 1 spark plug is cracked or has some sort of an issue with it. It does run a whole lot better with the new ignition module and coil pack on it. I was starting to have problems with it pinging and getting pre-ignition with the AC on, running at highway speeds. It's been doing that for a couple of years, and it's just not throwing a code, and I just didn't do anything about it. Well, it was the ignition module. I put the ignition module on, and that cleared that right up. So even though it's missing, it's still running a lot better, which it didn't run bad. It ran great. But I just noticed the little things. It's got a more crisp feel to the acceleration and throttle response. For whatever you get out of the 2.2, it's not all that great of a vehicle anyway, but it runs good. So tonight I'm going to pull this apart and see if the spark plug is the culprit. If not, I did check to see, because a lot of people in some of the other forums said that it's common for the number 1 cylinder on the valve cover gasket on the inside to leak oil into the number 1 valley, and that would cause issues there. Did not see any signs that there was an oil leak or anything like that. Everything in there was dry. So if it's not the number 1 spark plug, then potentially could be the ECM or a crack in the cylinder head. And I'm not really leaning towards a crack in the cylinder head, because that is a mechanical failure, and the miss in that would be more than likely constant, but kind of running out of things that could be potentially wrong with it. As these things get older, these kind of problems are going to creep up, and I want to try to help everybody out to diagnose it. Anyway, so to get the coil packs out, it's some 10 millimeter bolts. Take this back off of it, and there was some flathead things to take the air cleaner off, and the plug here It's pretty easy. You can get to the spark plugs in about 10 minutes. I'll let you know how it goes. So guys, I got the Saturn all back together, and it was in fact the spark plug that was causing the problem. I did end up putting the coil and the ignition module in it. Could I just put the spark plug in it and would that have fixed it? I'm not entirely sure. The coil was shorted out. The coil was reading continuity on the number one plug, so that needed to be replaced. Anyway, the ignition module, when I replaced the ignition module, I was getting a bit of a ping, like I said, when I was at highway speeds with the AC on and trying to accelerate. You could definitely notice that the engine was pinging. I was going to replace the knock sensor, the ping sensor in it. It actually was something with the ignition module. When I replaced that, it definitely made a difference in the performance of the vehicle. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's got 239,000 miles on it. All those parts are original. I haven't made a car payment in probably 7 or 8 years, so, you know, I think that's completely within the realm of reasonable troubleshooting to replace all that stuff. They're going to fail at some point, and, you know, it might run another 250,000 miles. Who knows? Anyway, hopefully that if you have the P0301 code and have a high-speed miss, hopefully this helps you troubleshoot, diagnose, and get it running again. Alright guys, so a little bit of an update. It was actually not the spark plug. The spark plug was replaced and it started missing again shortly after that. I got the code reader out, it threw another code. It was the throttle positioning sensor. So I looked that up, and that is part of the throttle body. You cannot separate the throttle body from the sensor. So I had to put a new throttle body on it, which was $200, I think, or something like that. I replaced the throttle body. It's running better, still missing. So I was starting to get really frustrated. After I replaced the throttle body, it started throwing yet a different code. So I was going down this different code rabbit hole, and it threw a code for a fuel injector is reading incorrect. So I went and I bought a set of fuel injectors, because again, they're 12 years old and have 250,000 miles on them. I put all new fuel injectors in it, and I have been driving it for several months now, and that finally solved the problem. So was it a combination of all of them? Again, not sure. All of the things that I've replaced are very old, and certainly replacing them was not wrong. And there was no way to know that the fuel injector was indeed the problem, because the code for the fuel injector did not come up until I had replaced all of the other parts to go through this troubleshooting process. And all in all, it was probably about $400 or $500 in parts. But if you want to keep your old car running, you should expect that kind of an expense. I'm sure there's probably going to be more things that go wrong, and I'll troubleshoot them as they come up. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video and some of the troubleshooting, apologize for not taking everything apart and showing you how everything comes apart. It's really pretty simple. But if you liked everything, hit the like button or subscribe, and I'm going to do some more videos. Thanks.